my daughter.
Okay. So welcome back to the Francisca Show. Today with us we have Kaley Halperin, musician, social entrepreneur, and mother. She is living in Israel. I'm so excited to be having Kaley on the show. So welcome, Kaley.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Welcome is what you said to me.
So it's really great to have you on. I think we don't have so many representatives of the Israel scene. So I'm really excited to have you on to give us a little bit of an insight. I know you serve also as a bridge a little bit between the older music and the newer music, or at least bridging those both worlds. At least this is what Annie Ornstein gave me these words to use, and I love it. And we're definitely going to go into that. But you have your interesting background along with the space that you hold as a singer. So we're going to definitely dive into all of these details because I know as an Orthodox female singer, there are just too many boxes and nobody fits into any one box. Everyone has their own dimensions and experiences. So thank you so much for coming onto the show. And we'll start just like we start every other episode. Tell us how you got started in music. What was your upbringing like? What was your musical training like?
So I'll start with my mother, who is self-pronounced off-key singer. But the story that she tells is that she was like at a recital at one of her friend's kids, and he was like 6 and he was playing the piano so beautifully. She asked her friend, how did he get so talented? And she said, well, I sing to him all the time and I'm a terrible singer, but that's the way I bring it into the house. So my mother would sing to us all the time until we asked her to stop. And later years, I asked her to start again. On one side, I have my mother doing that. And since I was 3, and she would write down the songs that I would like make up. And my father, who had, Alav Shalom, we passed away, had a beautiful voice. And my grandmother, his mother, was a singer herself, mostly for her community. So I had that both in the house, also, the music gene, and also the space to be playful and find my voice.
So your parents are from the States, right?
Right.
And I'm sorry about the passing of your father. Can you tell me a little bit about what your grandmother's stage was like? What was her musical space?
Well, from the stories, I met her when she was already not entirely with us. She was suffering for dementia. But what she would do in her last few years the things that would light up her face was to sing like old American and Yiddish songs.
So she didn't professionally sing on a stage with.
She did in like community settings. She was like the Jewish community around her, or she would do like different kind of fundraising things, and that's how that would be her stage. From what I understand from my aunt, there was always like a little sore spot that she really couldn't do it more professionally, but they do remember their house, like her mother always doing scales, and that was a very prominent thing in their home.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. So when did you start taking music lessons, or are you self-taught?
Yeah, so again, like I said, my mother was really into supporting as a whole. That's like the kind of family I grew up to. Like, whoever you are, we're gonna support it. And so since like second grade, I started piano lessons, And then in 8th grade, I started guitar. Both of them were not, I wasn't a very good student. Not that I wasn't musical, just that I didn't like to practice. So at one point that sort of like fizzled out. And then in 8th grade, I guess I got a teacher that wasn't like, I had one meeting with her and she started teaching me a few things, and then she gave birth. And when she came back from her maternity leave, I was already like learning from on my own. And she said, I don't have anything to teach you right now. So I guess it could have gone to the next teacher, but I was happy like writing my songs and knowing how to play the chords. Later on in 10th grade, I started learning voice professionally with who my teacher is another musician called Sarah Spielman. So she was my first voice coach, and you should check out her music because
we're having her on the show. It's just taking a little while. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I she's a very, very special person for me, and also like my music identity and my singing. So and then I learned in a high school, in a girls' high school for arts. So I did I studied music theory and history and voice in that kind of setting. And when I decided to do my degree, it was in music education.
Beautiful. Okay, so take us now. You have definitely a passion, and you see your skill and you see your talent. What would you say your first step into becoming a recording artist is? And just take us a little bit through storytelling. What happened first? How did it flow into the next thing?
So I think I always had that, making up songs was just something that I did. Like it was just something that I would feel like I still do it. Like I feel a very strong feeling, and then like it becomes a song usually. It's like a self-soothing mechanism, very much. And when I was in high school, I actually started like playing with like very basic recording things on my computer, and I would record CDs for my friends for their birthdays. Like I have a few of those songs that I probably don't remember how they even sound. But then I got married, and I had my two older kids, and I said like I'm a teacher. That's what I am. I'm a teacher. But it was stronger than me, and people that I learned with, I started playing with them, playing my songs, and and we were playing for a while, and it really wasn't going anywhere because I didn't know how to make it go anywhere. And then,
so by playing you mean jamming, sitting down?
We would actually go to a rehearsal studio once a week, and we would like work on the songs. We had like one or two shows, and it wasn't really I didn't understand what it meant to be. I didn't know how to make that step from, okay, I have songs, we're working on them, we're creating the version of a band like that I like once I heard my songs with a full band, I was just like I was so happy. I didn't understand that. They're like, okay, what's the next step? And then actually my father, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I sort of had this feeling like, if not now, when? And then I asked Itamar Asaf-Tal, who is the producer of my first album and was playing with us. I said, do you want to produce the album? Even though he didn't produce anything before, but I heard the stuff that he did with his own music, and I felt that that's the way I wanted to go. And that was that I think was the big leap.
Mm-hmm. So you went and produced your album. I'm assuming you invested quite some money into it.
Yeah.
So you put out your album and you do your music videos right away, or you wait a little bit?
So the producer Itamar, his wife Oshrat, is in film. So it was very, very, it was a very connected kind of a project. Exactly. We were working on the first song, the first single, Tashlich, that came out. So we were working with the sound and like the visuals together. So that it was very, very symbiotic as a process. You were asking like the money part of it. So I did a crowdfunding project. It of course doesn't cover all the costs, but it was very, it helped also financially, but it also helped me emotionally sort of tell the world, now this is who I
What's
am.
coming? This is who I am. And also as accountability. Now that you're in this
Right.
with me, I got to see this through the end.
Right. This is happening. This is happening. If before it was only in my head, now it's out there.
So were you able to hit your goal with your fundraising campaign?
Yeah. I was. It was touch and go. It was like to the last moment. And my husband, he's like, I said, okay, we have all this money. Should I add more money? He's like, no, it's gonna happen. It's gonna. And I was, and it really was. A lot of people later called me and said, like, we were so worried that you weren't going to get there. But the last sort of support was someone who saw it on social media and said, I just really believe in your dream. And I said, whatever you need, I'm going to.
Wow. And how it works is they receive an album when it was released?
Anybody, there was a few things that you could choose. So some people get like the digital album, some people got a hard copy, some people bought a ticket to the show of like when the album was released. And there was a few, like there was a voice lessons that I gave. There was a few different things that
Options.
people
Yeah.
could choose. Yeah.
So you're happy you did that?
Yeah, it was the right choice for me. It's a lot of work, and it's emotionally trying, and it's always like, beforehand I met with a counselor who did a few successful crowdfunding projects, and you have everything planned out, and you think of all the people that said, of course we're going to buy your album, and some of them support you at the beginning, some of them wait for the last minute to support, some people don't support at all. It's a really it's a test of faith. But I feel like the whole journey of being a musician and maybe an artist is very, very connected to faith.
Absolutely. Well, I did not choose this path because I just couldn't do it. It was too scary. I thought no one would ever contribute. Why would anyone contribute? Um, I don't even like talking about it because it's a lot of negative self-talk that I used to put myself through. Maybe now it would be a great idea to do it, but I am also against it on other levels for myself because I don't want to be a charity case as a singer, even though if you repackage it, I don't think a singer is a charity case. But the way it was hard for me to see music as like a business investment for someone versus I couldn't place it. Are you donating for somebody's cancer, or are you donating because you want a product at the end? So that classification was very confusing for me. And I think if you stand and you're like, I'm an innovative product and people are investing because they want to receive that album when it comes out, it's a different perspective. I didn't have that at the time when I was.
Anybody who asks me, I have a few friends who later wanted to consult in the whole process. You really need to go into it like on one hand, right? You're not a charity, right? Like a hungry child could use this money more than you can. Or maybe you're on a hungry artists, that's another story. But you're not a charity on one hand, so you want the people who want to support your art and like your music and like what you did. That's why I also did it after I put out a few singles, to have like a feeling of people who already listen to the music want to continue and support this. But on the other hand, it's not bad if somebody wants to give money, not necessarily for the music, but because believes in supporting artists. Like it's not it's exercising the ability to receive.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's a lot to think about. And it's an interesting conversation. I know when COVID started, there were these fun crowdfunding campaigns to help artists through COVID. I I could not share those links. I said it doesn't stand by what my beliefs are. I think the best way I can support an artist is by empowering them to earn. And if you're earning by selling CDs or selling out shows, great. So the way and that's what you were doing. You were selling voice lessons, you were selling tickets to your show, you were selling digital albums, or I don't know why I had such a hard issue with that specifically, but where it's straight up fundraising to give artists money, not for a product, not for a service, I found that to be very hard. I know right now I sort of jumbled them both together, but they're completely separate, the
Right,
crowdfunding
it's
and the
it's it's
donating
two
part.
different
Yeah.
things, and also it's very important to remember that in these times there's people that their job just became obsolete. So in the summer we had here in Israel, we had like a short time where I got to perform a few times, and I was up north, and I didn't have um, my equipment with me, and so I rented something out from someone over there. And he started working in a cable company, but he was like so excited that I came, and I was just like really renting out something really simple, really small. And he opens up his shed with this amazing sound equipment, and he used to do festivals, he used to do sounds like all the time, but he had to start a different job. And when you have, so he took responsibility of his life and started a different job. But he really the thing he asked when I came back and bring back the equipment, he asked so many questions about how the show was and how the sound was, and you just saw that he was so happy to be
Part of
working,
that again.
yeah, and what he loves, even though it was just a small thing.
Okay, so we went off on this tangent, but let's get right back. I'd love to hear about what happens. You put out this album, and then you start booking shows. Or do you organize them yourself and then stress about filling up the audience, or do you have somebody else inviting you to their events, or how does that work?
So I worked in two levels. Creating the shows was like, it wasn't as the right when the album came out, it was also before. And that's sort of, I learned that I like to produce, because that's what I just started doing. I started, a friend said, I have this garden, it would be perfect for shows. So I asked another friend, and we got equipment, and we had a garden show. And then like I had in the synagogue, I said, let's have an artist evening. And we have a lot of artists in our area, and one of them has um, like a rooftop that has like good sound equipment on it. So we just had that kind of like artist evening, and it was um, and then I had a place to perform. And then I started also trying to book open venues, but also offering different places if they want to book me. Like if so that financially, it's usually better, um, at least an artist my level, to get booked by a place that already has the audience. And the open shows, of where tickets are mostly to cover costs and to sort of feed into people wanting to book you more.
But without that energy and desire and enjoyment of producing your own shows, it's basically impossible to do it because how much work has to go into it. And as you said, you don't even make a profit most of the time.
Right. You need a, like, I just really, really enjoy it. Like at the end, me performing, I also love performing, but the fact that something comes together, and I have a tendency to do like things that don't have to be that big. Like it could also be more simple, but I enjoy like thinking of big things and making them happen.
So give me an example of some of the big things.
So that was one. Later on, I moved to a different synagogue in Jaffa where I live, and we also got different artists from different places. And this time we had an art gallery of the artists in the community. We live next to the old city of Jaffa, so we have people there who have art galleries, and someone who did a spoken word piece, and music, some people who play like Oriental music, and some people who do their own things. So that's like one idea. Another idea, I'm starting to reminisce all of all of our things
Pre-COVID.
pre-COVID. But we have a group of also like sort of friends who are musicians, and the idea was to play music in open spaces. So in the street, in the flea market, or different places around Jaffa. And then it became much bigger, and we got to do it, perform on the platform on the promenade, right, overlooking the sea, with people from all over the world like stopping and listening. And so that's, and then I have a song that I wrote that you're part of, that's coming out. I don't know when this podcast is coming out.
Okay,
But
hold on.
yeah.
So we are working. I am involved in one of your collaborative projects, of one of many that you have done, and I'd love for you to describe a little more of the other ones as well. But you have one upcoming on Hanukkah, right?
Right.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so it's coming out. It's coming out a few days before. It's coming out December 8th, and I wrote a song last Hanukkah. For some reason, my husband and the kids weren't in the house in the evening. I don't remember why, but I had a time like just me and the candles, and I lit the candles, and I played my guitar, and the song just came. And I had, like, that year for me was a challenging year. I lost my father, um, and I lost also a pregnancy, and then I had my daughter, who's now 6 months old, who was starting to grow inside me. And I just thought about the miracles of the little things that are just amazing, and how they grow. And then the song Ala Nisim came. And this year, we were during the second lockdown here, and I was feeling locked down. Like I was feeling that I just gave birth, and um, and I didn't really know who I was, because everything that I was involved in just stopped. Also teaching, and also producing and performing. And I decided that I want to start recording my music. I need to do something creative. So I met with Arno Naol, his stage name is San Taylor, and he actually lives 500 meters from my home, because it was like the second lockdown, so you couldn't like leave your bubble. And I sat down and I said, I was thinking of recording different songs at all, but he said maybe like let's hear something else. And I said, oh, I have this one that maybe, and then I played it, and he's like, yeah. And I said, oh, well, maybe we'll do it for next year. We'll see. And then in a month, less than a month, um, the song's recorded, the video is done, and it became a very special collaboration with women musicians from Israel and abroad, and organizations that do a lot of good things in the world.
That's so beautiful. And I love how you use your personal journey and translate that into your art form. I think everyone does, but not everyone is aware of it. And even when we do it on demand, for example, we're sitting down to write something because somebody hired you, or it's work, channeling your personal journey. I see that that's what you do, and it really reflects in your music, in your music videos. And yeah. Okay, so first of all, who are your bigger influences in music?
That's a good question. I always say that I don't listen to music because I have a lot of it in my head. So
You're not the first one on this podcast to say that.
That's interesting. Because like usually it's just enough that I hear one song, and then there's so much going on, ignites so much creativity, that I can't listen to a lot of music. I listen to podcasts more. But I think Joan Baez, I feel, is also like I really connect to that kind of feeling. Natalie Merchant, Neshama Kalibach was one of the first CDs I got from my mother's friend, and I also sort of connected to that. I feel those are that kind of puts me in also my musical realm. And there's also other women that maybe not musically, but I really appreciate their journey. Victoria Khana, Maureen Edal. They're women who work in Israel and abroad, but they're Maureen Edal. She does Persian, like she writes her own kind of Persian piyutim. What's the word for
Poems?
piyutim? Yeah, like poems. They're like authentic Persian poems that she writes. But she makes beautiful music, and she's a beautiful singer. And so she teaches like these Persian music from her background, and she writes her own music, and she performs around the world. And I like when I try to think of like what kind of musician I want to be, is one that isn't just performing on stages, or like when you think of like a singer-songwriter, what do? They just like perform and so on. I'd like to be a kind of musician that brings something more with me.
Like what?
Well, first of all, I love teaching. Like that's it gives me a lot of joy. And also in my shows, I always really involve the audience. Like they become like I perform a lot alone by myself with a guitar or piano. So the audience becomes the band. And I like to share like my thoughts, and like to hear other people speaking. I like to do workshops. Before COVID, I had like a new workshop where I worked with mothers and newborns on writing a song for the newborn. So it was like a process of sort of finding our own voice and a way to create a communication with our baby.
I love that. Okay, so I know we haven't at all discussed Kalisha here, but do you perform exclusively for women-only audiences, or do you perform for both?
I perform for both. It was the place that I came from, like the community that I come from. Women perform in front, like, I mean, it's not like women perform in front of men. It's just I don't search men to perform in front of them, but whoever comes to the show is invited. But I believe I try to do it in a place of modesty. Also because I feel like my music is very spiritual, for me at least. So I try to keep it as clean as possible. That's just also like who I am. And also I had a time where I only performed in front of women. And I think after I got married, which is already over 10 years ago, I felt that I didn't need that so much anymore. Like also, like I came to a new kind of community where their men hear women singing. So I had this thought of like, here men hear women singing, but they don't hear religious Jewish women singing. Like that's, so the only people that they're not hearing is the voice of religious women. So I felt that was something that should be heard.
Powerful statement, very powerful. Yeah, and especially we just did a panel on SNEAS that I'm still getting tons of feedback on just a few days ago. And
I'll have to
it's
check
just
that
so
out.
fascinating to hear you say, and to anyone listening, because I'm looking at you right now and you look so tsanuat. If there was like a little measurement thing, I feel like you would win the tsanua contest in terms of your personality and just how you hold yourself, and um and then how you say that the way you perform. If I'm just putting myself into somebody who's never heard of this before, and hearing you talk and seeing you and seeing how modest you present yourself, and then you saying that, okay, I lost my train of thought, but the idea is that you're doing it in a modest way, and it's a total contradiction for anyone who's never been exposed to that. And I'm not saying what you're doing is right or wrong. It's not my place to do that, and this podcast is not the place to discover or to judge anyone. I just my I don't know, I'm just inspired and I feel a connection to what you're saying, and I don't hear women say that with the level of confidence and modesty at the same time. Feeling what they're, because there's no prohibition on you to not sing, meaning it
Exactly.
doesn't say you cannot sing. So it just gets so misinterpreted. Do men end up hearing you? Yes. And you're also saying they're listening to women anyway. Let them listen to something modest and inspiring and beautiful instead of, and I don't want to call anyone else terrible or immodest or sexual, but that may be the other options.
I feel like it's a very, very personal choice. We were talking about my productions. So another thing that also I hope will continue once we can gather again. It's called LineNashi, which is like a female line, and it actually started in a performance pub in the south of Tel Aviv, which actually closed due to COVID. I hope it also reopens. And Maya, the owner, she's a very cool woman, and she does sound, and she has this place which like every beginning musician in Israel goes through it. Zusammen, that's the place. And it's a really, really, the sound is amazing. It's small, so you don't have to worry of bringing too many people for it to feel like empty. And so we started, and she said, listen, I want to give you, I wanted to start it in like in a synagogue, in like a communal space. And she said, come to our place. So you have this, we would have evenings each once a month, three women performers, and then we would have an open mic for women only and jam session. So if I had like three performers who would perform only in front of women, then I would close it off for a women's only evening. And if it was women who also performed in front of men, then I would leave it open. But always the open mic and jam session was only for women. And a lot of women who were, you know, totally secular and who went to all these other kind of jams and open mics in Tel Aviv. And Tel Aviv has amazing open mics and jams because there's amazing musicians here. And it's a small place, and like the stakes are high, so people get like really good. And a lot of them told me I felt comfortable. I felt comfortable making mistakes. I felt comfortable, you know, having my voice heard, just because it was like a female safe space. And one of the things was for me to say, here, everybody is welcome. Like if you perform the way you perform, whatever, you know, you sing, you're welcome here. And a lot of like the more frum women, the more religious women who perform only in front of women, were really felt like it was a very special experience because a lot of places wouldn't close their place for them. And to have also amazing sound and also like a cool vibe, you can, you know, buy a beer and sit with your friends. And so I felt that it was a very special space that, of course, Maya, the owner, allowed us to bring that with us and respected what we were doing. The reason I bring it up is because everybody should, the voice should not be turned down because of this, you know, because of the Kol Isha, right? If a man doesn't want to listen, he doesn't have to listen. But what I felt, what I feel is happening in a lot of communities is that the women feel like they can't
sing.
They can't sing. They can't hear their voice. And I worked in a religious school here in Jaffa, and I created an arts program. And we had the women, the girls were learning music. They were learning theater. They were learning dance. And the boys were a little less, they were more into the art, a little bit of the music, but they could perform in, like the older boys couldn't perform in any kind of get together. And the older girls really didn't have a place to perform. So our big shows were mixed kids from first to third grade, and from fourth to sixth grade, it was only the girls. And then we invited only mothers to these shows. And what happens was that we put a lot of, instead of saying we want to invite everybody, so we can only have the boys perform, and then these girls who are working very hard. It's also a very small school with not a lot of budget, so they couldn't have a show only for girls or only for women. They had to choose. So we said, okay, the boys can do these stuff that are open when the parents come for the different holidays, and then the girls have their end of the year show, which is a showcase of what they've been learning. So whatever your belief is, that's fine, but artists should have a stage.
I love that. What are your biggest challenges, or what parts of the industry you don't like least?
That's a good question. My biggest challenges. I feel like my challenge is everything that has to do with like financially pushing myself. what excites me has to do more with like social and charity work. So I think my challenge is like to remember that I am a business, and that so I can continue doing this extra work, I also have to um, earn money and make sure that what I'm doing is profitable. So when you have have family and kids, you have to your time is something that you have to be accountable for. So what am I putting my time and energy in? Like, is it worth it not spending time with my kids right now? Like, what am I doing? So that I feel is one challenge, and also I feel like the Israeli industry is challenging because it's a small pool, and like Tel Aviv is amazing, but like the popular music in Israel, it goes on a certain sort of line that I less connect to. And 2 years ago, I had a chance to be in California and San Francisco and perform a little bit in that area, and it was a very, very transformative experience for me, because suddenly I felt like, okay, I have a space. I have a space. I have to find exactly where it is. And it's okay that it's not the Israeli industry. That's fine. Um, the world is big.
Yeah, it's big enough. And I'm assuming your husband is fully supportive of what you're doing and is encouraging.
My husband has, like, music for him is like his computer science for me. Like, he listens to a song and he does not know what to say. Like, he has no idea. Like, he has like 5 music albums that his older brothers listened to when he was in high school, and that's the music that he listens to. And it's sort of that's what he has. So I'm so, like, I don't have, like, I can't, like, ask him, like, what do you think, or I can talk about strategies, but he's supportive of me doing what I love and being really good at it.
That's beautiful. It's important to hear. You don't need to marry a musician to have that support.
Yeah, it's it was a very, I think, the beginning was very challenging, because I was, a teacher and a mother, and then suddenly one morning I say, and I would, like, play my guitar and I would sing some songs, but and suddenly I said, okay, I'm a musician now, and also we have to put all this money into it, and all this time and an emotional um, strife. I don't know, like, all these emotions to deal with it, and so that was on on relationship level, that was something that we had to sort of mold into new reality.
For sure. Well, it's so beautiful, and I'm so honored you invited me to participate in your El Hanisim collaboration. So this will come out probably the same time. It's probably going to come out. Yeah. And so if anyone wants to reach you, where would they go?
So Kaley Halperin, Kaley Halperin, Halperin, everywhere. YouTube,
one place. Yeah.
YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to your music. And I have a website, and actually with this song, on my website is going to be, because it's a collaboration with different organizations, you can find a page where if you want to donate or be part of the amazing things these different organizations are doing, then you can find all the information there.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Kaley, for coming on to the Francisca Show.
Thank you, Francisca. Thank you for having me. I really adore what you do and the journey that you're on and where it's bringing you. And I really love your part on the song. I don't know if you're going to sing it so well, but I hear it so well, but I know that it's what it is, and I'm so happy that you're part of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.